These are changes that the Blue Jays need to make heading into the 2025 season, and it's a long list, but these are a few of the things that they really need to address. So I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. Welcome in everybody to Jays Digest. I'm your host Peter Vryonis alongside host Nick Gosse, and today we're going to be discussing the changes that the Blue Jays need to make heading into next season. Nick, it's a long, extensive list that we've broken down over the course of the past couple of weeks here, whether it's the bullpen, whether it's the outfield, whether it's acquiring another power bat, whether it's just simply breaking down what Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro have to say. I mean, the list goes on and on of what the Blue Jays need to change, and these things could really help solve some serious issues heading into next year and help them accomplish their goal of being competitive in 2025, which they said is their ultimate focus. And they'll do whatever they have to do to get to that point. And I think these things that we're going to break down today are really influential and essential in allowing that to happen.
Yeah, we've obviously been discussing a lot of moves that they can make. This one's going to be not fully transactional based. It's going to be interesting. An article dropped and some rumors are starting to circulate. Let's just dive right into the first one, Peter. And these are going to be a bit different than the ones we've been discussing recently because we know their bullpen needs work. We know their offense needs work. And there'll be plenty of videos covering those rumors as they happen. But an interesting article dropped by Edward Eng. And he said, four changes the Jays must make immediately after the season that just concluded for the Toronto Blue Jays. And the reason I wanted to cover this today is because this is something I haven't spoken about too much. And this is the first one here. And Peter, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on it. And it's about taking George Springer out of the leadoff spot going forward. We know George Springer had a really horrible start to the year. He had a very short spurt where he was very good. And then after that, he had another rough, I guess, second half of the season as well. But he batted .214 with a .640 OPS this year, 50 runs scored, 13 doubles, 12 homers. Peter, do you think it's time to get George Springer out of the leadoff spot? I think at this point it's all but inevitable that he needs to be your seventh or eighth hitter in the lineup at this point, maybe sixth. But if they're going to add some other hitters, I don't know if he can be the leadoff hitter for this team anymore, given his age and his pretty steep decline in production.
Yeah, his declining skill set is something that really stands out to me. And I'll even take it a step further here. They got to take him out of an everyday role, play him in some spots that make the most sense for him. You could tell that he just doesn't have the the physical ability to play 162 games anymore. And you could argue that he never did either. He always struggled to stay healthy, but when he was on the field, he was fantastic, at least for the prime years of his career. Now you could tell that he's in the twilight stages of that, and he's just not the same player. The bat speed is not where it once was. He doesn't crush fastballs, something that he usually did before he got to Toronto. And even in the first couple of years as a Blue Jay, he was crushing fastballs, and he's just not able to catch up to that pitch anymore. So not only do you no, you can't have him in the leadoff spot. I think that's been established here, and his play over the past couple of years has really set that in stone, at least for me and a lot of other Blue Jay fans as well. But what I see from him is right now a part-time player that is going to cost you a lot of money. And you know that this was a possibility when you signed him, the $25 million a year and the long contract taking him into his late 30s. This was always going to be a challenge for the Toronto Blue Jays. But now, if you have to eat some money and have him sit on your bench for 50% of the games in the season, I think that's probably your best avenue in terms of being competitive. If you can go out there and get an outfielder that hits for power, that can play every single day, then he's probably going to take George Springer out of the lineup or just force Springer to be a platoon kind of guy or just look for matchups that work best for him. Because at this point, he's no longer a leadoff hitter for me, and I don't think he's an everyday player either with the way that he's played.
Yeah, and I have a bit more optimism, but I mean, there's not much to be optimistic about regarding him after his season last year. He played very poorly, and I think it kind of depends on what moves they have in the pipeline, whether that's signing a left fielder, whether that's signing two power hitters and replacing one of them with George. I still think he's going to factor into their everyday lineup, but I'm not exactly sure it's because of his play, more so because of the salary and the other things they have to address here. But let us know what your thoughts are on the George Springer situation. Now, this one, number 2 on the list, is sacrifice defense for some offense. This is something we've both been obviously very adamant about. We know after the 2021 season, they definitely sacrificed a lot of their offense for defense, and now they need to go back in the other way. They need to get guys. I mean, we've heard talks about Vladdy moving to third, which is obviously sacrificing offense for defense, signing guys like Teoscar Hernandez. They need to go out there and get some guys that hit the ball well. Now, whether that is a guy like Pete Alonso, which is, we only play first base and DH, whether it's a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, who's a very good power hitter, but not the best at defense, they need to make some adjustments because at this point, their defense first strategy just does not work anymore, at least for the Toronto Blue Jays. And it's we've seen across the league, home runs is what wins playoff games. It's what wins regular season games even. The Jays couldn't even get to the playoffs. They need to add more power hitters, and the defense needs to take a step back. And they still have the best defensive player in baseball in Dalton Varsho, so they'll be fine in the defensive end. Just get some offense in the games. Make them more watchable.
Yes, that's obviously something that you'd love to see if you're a Blue Jay fan, but I'd counter that, Nick, and say that pitching and defense wins games more so than offense come playoff time, and that proof is in the pudding with the Detroit Tigers, the way that they've played. I mean, they have an ace, they have a lot of good relievers, and they've been winning with pitching, defense, and getting timely hits when they can. But the difference with them is that they're not striking out and they're putting the ball in play and they're getting the timely hits, something that the Blue Jays haven't really gotten in the past couple of years. So they're rallying behind their really good pitching. They're rallying behind their good defense, and that's allowed them to be a playoff team. So you don't need home run hitters, but the Blue Jays were so good at that for so many years, and that was why they were making the playoffs. It's because they had those amazing offenses, and whatever else that they got from the pitching and the defense was a bonus, but you've totally shafted that. You've totally gone away from that philosophy, and now you're a defensive first ball club that struggles to pitch. So it's hard. It's hard to defend when your relievers are giving up home runs in clutch situations. It's hard to defend when your starters aren't lasting more than 5 innings. So there's a lot of things that need to change with this team, and I think they made the team a lot worse when they decided to go in the defense direction, and that's been pretty evident with the results that we've gotten in the past couple of years. So yeah, they should add some offense, but they should also focus on keeping those areas of the team solid as well because they're very important. You don't want to just go all out in one direction. You want to be a well-balanced team, which is what most teams that are still alive right now are. Like if you look at the Dodgers, they can pitch, they can field, yes, they can hit, but they have everything. They have base running. They do everything well, which is why they're an elite team. You have to be able to do everything well. You shouldn't have to pick one side or another of what to be good at because that won't get you too far come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, they need to do both at this point. Whether it's
Yeah.
sacrificing a bit of defense for offense, they need to be a better team from top to bottom. Even pitching has to be better as well. And a couple more here before I wrap up is, of course, signing Vladdy to an extension. We've had multiple videos covering that. That's one of the things that definitely needs to be probably first on their priority list. We know that Vladdy's one of the best hitters in baseball, but signing Vladdy, that's an obvious one. They need to get that done. And then a complete bullpen overhaul. I mean, at this point, they have maybe a couple of guys that are penciled into the bullpen next year that are super reliable. You have Jordan Romano, you have a couple other guys, but even the guys that we thought were reliable, like Eric Swanson, ended up being less dependable. But now heading into the year, you have Chad Green, you have Jordan Romano, and hopefully you have a decent Eric Swanson there. But they also need to make some big acquisitions in signing the bullpen guys. And again, you're going to have to sign Vladdy. You're going to have to sign a bunch of bullpen players. There's a lot of missing pieces on this team right now, and the Jays are going to have to start and kick their butt into gear here as soon as the playoffs end with these free agents, because if they don't, then we're going to have a repeat of last year and maybe even a worse year, because again, we finished 14 games under 500 or 15 games under 500 with a great season out of Vladdy. Now, obviously injuries and stuff happen, but both of these things need to happen very, very fast.
Yes, and Vladdy signing an extension is the number one course of action that the Blue Jays need to take because let's put ourselves in the shoes of a primetime free agent, right, Nick? Like, let's
Yep.
say you're trying to acquire Alex Bregman and you want to sign him to a long-term deal. Why would he feel compelled to come to Toronto if the core pieces and the face of the franchise is not signed to a long-term deal? Okay, let me sign with Toronto, and then Vladdy's going to hit free agency next year, and I'm going to be all by myself. And the team's going to be in a rebuilding situation, and I'm on the wrong side of 30, and I signed here to complete the rest of my career. Like that is a harsh reality that the Blue Jays are facing. So yeah, they need to be aggressive on the trade market, on the free agent market, but you have to be an attractive destination as well. And in order for you to do that, Vladdy needs to be a Blue Jay for life. That is the number one course of action. So we could talk about the bullpen all we want. We could talk about making trades and what needs to happen for the Blue Jays. This is the number one thing that needs to happen in order to help you become a more attractive destination for guys that you're wanting to acquire to make your team better.
Yeah, and if they don't sign Vladdy, none of these other things matter because your team's going to be significantly worse into the future anyways. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this, and hopefully you're all enjoying playoff baseball, even though the Jays aren't in it. At least there's less stress this year. But let us know what your thoughts are. We'll see you there.